You're watching Fairfield Public Access Television. I'm Susan Kessel, and we're out here on this beautiful, overcast country day with Betty Miller. Good morning.
Good morning.
It's so beautiful and peaceful out here.
It is nice.
And we're here to look at her wonderful daylilies. You've gotten to be well known for those.
Well, I wouldn't say that.
Oh, I would. Look at here at the sign. You've got you're an official recognized
display garden for the American Hemerocallis Society, and this is my first year to be approved as a display garden.
Now, I just read the wonderful article in the Ledger, and it said you were one of 7 in the
eight. There's 8 in the state of Iowa, and I'm the only one in this area. The other ones are, like an hour away. So that's one reason I applied, because I thought we needed one in this area.
That's wonderful. And so people out there, today's date is July 20th, is that right? 19th, around in there.
I lose track, too.
So have we missed the peak?
The peak probably was last week. I think it's on the decline now. There are some of my early ones that are clear done. I would say maybe 25% of them are clear done for the season. But I still have some late blooming ones that are just started. So they go for like a month.
Okay.
To 5 to 6 weeks. The early ones start like mid-June. I have even hit them in some years start the last of May.
Oh,
a few
my
of
goodness.
them, the real early ones.
And then they continue on through?
Probably another week will be the main season, but then they are bred to send up rescapes, and if you get the conditions are right and you get rain, they will send up rebloom, and I oftentimes have about a dozen of them still blooming when it frosts.
Oh, wow. Well, you know, I think that daylilies have become my favorite flower.
There are a lot of people's. There are a lot of daylily addicts out there.
Including you, and that's why.
True.
Tell us how you got started doing this.
I guess it was about 8 years ago. My dad was in the hospital in Iowa City, and I found out that there was a display garden in Iowa City, and it was in July. So I went to visit it, and it was Dr. McDowell, and he had a beautiful display garden up there, and I bought 3 from him that fall and planted them, and then when I saw them bloom the next spring, I was a goner. You just have to go back and get 3 more, and then 10 more, and then 30 more the next year, and it's very addictive.
I liked your thing that said in the paper that you collect them. It's a collection.
Well, that's what I think of it. I think of it as a collection, just like anybody else's collection. Yes.
And so when you travel, you pick up one here and there?
More than that. More than that. And my travels, when I do go daylilyin, it is for the purpose of buying and bringing back daylilies to put in my garden, so people here can see things that they don't see unless they travel to South Carolina, North Carolina, Texas.
Is it hard to find these?
No, because I go to hybridizers or to display gardens.
Okay.
Yes, and I belong to the American Hemerocallis Society, which is a national society, and they put out a journal 4 times a year, and they list like the display gardens and also the commercial people, and they advertise in there, so you know, the hobby people, so you know where to go.
And tell us, I'm not sure I'm going to say this name right, Hemerocallis?
Hemerocallis.
What that means.
That means daylily, and it means beauty for a day.
Which the flowers bloom one day.
One day.
And then they're gone.
They bloom for one day, and then that flower is gone, and then the next bud is open the next morning.
Now, I have some daylilies. Some I started by just digging them up in the ditch. I bet
Those are ditch lilies.
25 years ago I liked them.
Are they orange?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
Those are the ditch lilies, and those are actually altogether different because they spread by root, and the root goes underground, and then the plant pops up beside it. These don't do that. These clump.
They don't.
No, these clump.
Well, no wonder. I remember like 25 years ago or longer digging up the ditch lilies and bringing them home. And then we moved, and I did it again. And they spread and did really good, but then I get these and they don't quite spread like that.
No,
that explains.
These clump. Yes. The ditch lilies are pretty for landscaping, and in the ditch, they're beautiful. But you don't want them among these because they will crowd them out.
Right, and they do. The ditch lilies do, even on the edge of the yard, keep moving into the yard.
That's correct.
But these don't.
That's
so,
correct.
Well, I'm glad to know that. Now, what about if you were going to have a cut flower in the house? Is this a good flower for that?
Well, people don't like to cut off their scapes because you cut off the bloom for the next 2 weeks.
And the scape is...
The scape is a stem.
Okay. The whole stem.
The whole stem is called a scape, yes.
Okay.
And, well, I bring them in the house. If I know it's going to rain and storm and ruin them for the day, sometimes I'll go out and take the blossom, the open blossom, and put them in a water pick and put them in the house. I'll maybe take 2 or 3 dozen in and put them in like a styrofoam.
Now, say if you had a scape with an open bloom and then just a couple of the blooms or buds, are the buds going to open the next day? Maybe.
Possibly, but they might not be quite as nice.
Okay.
Yes.
Because I think I've done that, and they aren't as nice. But
Right.
yeah.
They're smaller.
Okay.
Each one of these are named. I have each plant labeled with their name. They are registered with the American Hemerocallis Society. And the tag that you see there, the second line, is the hybridizer who hybridized it and the year that they introduced them.
Okay. And we will, in a few minutes, we'll take a tour and we go around and look at all of them. So you started with buying 3.
Right.
How many do you have now?
Around 400. And
Different ones.
Different named varieties, plus my seedlings, yes.
Is there ever a variety that, say, you would get Texas or California that won't make it here?
True. There are 3 different foliage types. They're dormant, evergreen, and semi-evergreen. And down south, they have trouble with the dormants, and up here we have trouble with the evergreens.
And so when you're there, they tell you that.
I look. Yes,
You
they
know.
always have catalogs that tell you all the information you need to know about that daylily. Yes.
So if someone were going to start, like me, a new collection,
All right.
where would I start?
Well, you
Just
come out
anywhere.
here.
In fact, I know that at the citywide garage sale, you have
Yes,
been
that's
there.
True, that's true. I do. When the clump gets so big, like if it gets to be 5 or 6 or 7 years old, before long you can't dig it out of the ground. It's so heavy. So I like to dig them about that. You don't have to, but I like to because I can't get them out. You wash off the roots and you pull them apart. And then maybe you have 3 that you want to put back in the hole that you took it out of. Well, you have 5 or 6 other plants. So what do you
So
do
you're
with them?
separating them.
I separate them. So then I take them like to the garage sale.
And
in
so
the
I
fall.
have bought a few, and I have some blooming. Have had
Oh,
some.
do you?
Yes, I think I bought maybe 5
Now,
or
do you have the names on yours?
no.
Well, then you can't remember which ones that you
You're
have.
right.
So you need to put labels on them. Then
I
you'll-
know.
Then you'll know what you have. So when you go to somebody else's garden and you want to get one, or if you go to a nursery somewhere and you want to buy one, then you'll remember what you have.
I need to check because I know that you did have them labeled, and when I planted them, I put the label on there, but I need to get a more permanent label.
You still have the labels on there?
I think.
That little plastic,
I think.
you need to take them off if you don't have them off,
Uh-oh.
because I put them around the plant. Well, the plant can't
Needs-
grow with that little thing squeezing its little neck.
Uh-oh. Okay. And you have markers, and I have bought markers before and written on them, but then that disappeared. But you have them.
I did that for quite a few years. I used a paint stick or a China marker or different. I just tried everything, and I finally gave up and I got this label maker, and it has like sticky tape.
Uh-huh. Does that...
And I've used these 3 years and I've never replaced one, so I'm real satisfied with it.
So you leave these out in the winter,
Yes,
too?
yes,
Because
yes.
if you had to pull them up every year,
Right,
they'd
you'd
never get back.
remember. I also have a map in the house, a drawing of each one of these beds and what is planted, where. So I have an inside map in case some of these labels do get lost over the winter. There was 8 foot of snow over here this winter. And I never saw as much damage on the labels as there was this winter. In fact, there was about an 8-foot drift all the way back there. And the weight of the snow just crushed a lot of these markers.
Okay, so
It's
just
a good idea to have a map in the house too, if you're
yeah.
a serious daylily
Right.
person.
so those are just stick-on labels that you've printed out of the computer.
Not the computer, no. A label maker. It was a Brothers label maker.
A special outdoor.
Oh, no, it's not.
permanent.
It's not necessarily an outdoor thing. It's something you can buy at any office supply store.
Okay.
It's the brand I got was Brothers. There's all other kind of brands too, but it prints it out on a sticky tape, and then you put it on there, and it's very satisfactory. I have a lot of people starting to use these now.
I think I will, and I know these sound like silly questions to be asking, but
Well, that's the only
I don't
way
know
you
the
learn.
answers.
That's the only way you learn.
okay.
That's
well,
what I'm here for. I'm a display garden. I'm to help people with the daylilies and things like the labels.
what are the requirements to be a display garden?
Well, you have to have a representative of all the different types of daylilies. For instance, I have the doubles, the large flower, the small flower, the spider, the double spiders, the mini doubles, minis. I just have every type that there is. And so you need to have a representative of all the different types so people can come to your garden and see the different kinds of daylilies. And then you have to fill out an application with information about why you want to do this. And you have to send in pictures, and then you have to have an officer like your regional vice president come and look at your garden, and they have to write up an approval and send it into the national office with all of this, and then it's approved from the national office.
So this is the first year that you've been a member.
This is my first year, yes.
And
as a
have you
display
had,
gardener.
when I called the other day to say I wanted to come tape, you told me, well, I have someone coming from here and
Yes.
someone coming from there. And
Well, I was just curious last night about how many people I've actually had this year, and so I sat down and I tried to write down everybody I could remember was here.
you need a guest book.
I should have, yes. I came up with 71 people,
I would get a guest book for next year.
but now I need to put down 72, 73. I have 73 here now.
Have you ever had a busload pull in?
No, not yet. Not yet.
Well, just wait. I'm sure you will.
No, I don't think so.
Little bus. Okay, we'll give our cameraman a break, and then we'll look at these beautiful flowers. I've never seen so many beautiful daylilies, and I guess when I look at flowers and you don't know about them, you're seeing the different colors and not some of the things that you know about them. Like you were talking about doubles and singles. What's a
Right.
double and what's a single?
Well, normally a daylily like this one here will have 6 petals. 6 petals and 3 petals and 3 sepals. But when
Sepals.
that's the outside here.
Okay.
The 3 on the outside are the sepals, the 3 inside ones are petals. And normally there's 6. Whereas this one you see has a lot more tissue in the center.
Right.
That's a double when they have
Okay.
extra tissue in the middle,
Okay.
or petals. This little one here, I went to Savannah, Georgia and brought this one back. It's called Giggling Glory.
And you've had it since '98. Is that what your marker means?
Right. Uh-huh.
Okay.
Yes. Well, that's when it was hybridized, but I got it when it was new. This one here isn't quite open yet. Sometimes they don't quite get open in the
Beautiful
morning
color
because of the sun.
in the middle.
It is.
Compared, and then the
It's called
outside.
Chance Encounter.
And
And look at the
beautiful
green
richness.
throat.
Oh.
See, that's something that they really like in the daylilies is the green throat. Now this one over here, there's an interesting story on it. It's called Indian Giver. And the man who hybridized it didn't like it. So he gave it away. And the man that he gave it to took it to a flower show and it won. So he wanted it back.
Oh,
So that's why they call it Indian Giver.
okay.
And I just think it's a wonderful plant. In fact, a lot of my seedlings are out of this one.
Now I have a question. I get so busy. I love the flowers, but I know I don't give them the attention that they need. I noticed that out here you have on these clipped the others that have bloomed, do you come out?
I come out every day and deadhead them. I think that's one thing that's important on a display garden, not to have so many that you can't take care of them. And once a day I deadhead them. Now I did this last night because it takes, like, in the peak it takes me about an hour to an hour and a half to deadhead them.
Every day?
Every day. Yes, this is why it's a good retirement project because a lot of people don't have time to do that, but I do. And it helps. It's an important part of grooming the garden.
It does. It looks really nice.
I don't like to come out. I don't like to go to a garden and look at, and they've got all these ugly
things hanging on there.
Yes, hanging on them.
Half dead and
right,
half.
right.
Then when do you cut the stem, which you call
When it's completely done. Now this one here will have one more bloom on it, and when that's done, then I'll cut the scape right off.
So you don't need to
Just-
let them dry.
No, not the scapes. No. They get their energy renewed from their leaves.
Do you fertilize and everything?
Yes, but it's nothing that's organized. I have used sometimes like just commercial 10-10-10, but you have to use it pretty lightly. You have to be careful you don't burn the foliage. And I have used Miracle Grow, and there's also another formula that uses fish emulsion and 5 or 6 Epsom salts, 5 or 6 different things called the Hooker formula. That's passed around among the Daylily people, and it's a foliar feeding too. You just spray it on the foliage. And I have used some time release. There's some Daylily people that use time release, like that Osmocote or Milorganite or that type, so they only have to do it once a year. And I just, whatever I get around to doing is what I do.
So you don't have a secret plan?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No, it's just, and it might change from year to year too.
Okay.
This one here, you might look at the edge of this one. It's got what you call a gold wire edge around the edge.
Oh, it does. It almost looks crocheted or something.
If you would see that in the sunlight, the sun just glistens off of that gold edge. This one here is a real nice one. This is an older one. It was hybridized by the Wilds down in Sarcoxy, Missouri, and I think it's gorgeous. Even if it's probably
very subtle.
15 years old. It's just a gorgeous plant. I have a lot of really nice older ones too. I don't get rid of them just because they're old.
So a plant will, if you divide it and take care of it, just go on.
Oh, forever. I have some that belong to my grandmother.
Oh.
I'll show you them when we get there.
Okay. This one is really pretty.
Isn't this neat?
Unusual.
Now this is a small flower. You notice it isn't as large or as wide as what the other ones we looked at. It's registered as a small flower with its huge red eye.
Some wonderful veins in there too.
Some people like that dark veining. There's just all kinds. Here's a really nice one here too. This one called Spiritual Corridor.
That's the first one I noticed in here and caught my eye. Some people, I imagine, maybe go for color, certain colors.
Right. They do some beds. Some of them do like purple, lavender, and white beds, or all yellow bed, or just what, just as many different things as what there are people.
I like your collection.
Here is a real nice double in a different color right there. Radiantly Rich. And this was hybridized by Jan Joyner in 1998. And I brought that from her garden down there in 98 or 99, whenever I was down there. Here's something with a lush color right here.
Gorgeous.
This is Autumn Wood, and it was hybridized in 1991 by a man called Doherty.
I think I've heard that name, Doherty. I don't know if some are more well-known than others. Maybe that's one I have at home.
Could be. This one here is called Gold Elephant, and it is named because the trunk down the front.
Oh, it's longer,
Yes.
droopy kind of petals.
And it's a spider variant. Here's one that's different.
In fact, different steps.
Different Steps is its name, and it was hybridized by the Shooters down in Marietta, North Carolina. And I brought that back from their garden.
Now, when you purchase them, they're not in bloom. They're just the...
They are in bloom when I purchase them. I like to see them in bloom before I purchase them.
Okay, that's
so
what
I go in their bloom season, which is like the last of May, the 1st of June. That's before our season is here. So I can go down there and not leave my garden. And I see them in bloom down there.
You wouldn't be disappointed when you get home and have something.
That's why I go to their gardens, is to see them in bloom before I buy them.
Now, this has got to be a small one again.
This is a small one. And the first year, too, I was hybridizing. I was doing little things. This is called Dash Dash. And I was doing small things, so I bought this one to hybridize with.
Now, this plant seems to, I don't know if it's because they are little, have a lot more blooms and have spread nice and been kind of a bigger clump.
Well, I wish you could have seen that when it's at peak. There was probably 50 blooms on it then. And a lot of these had a lot more flowers on it back at peak. Now, like that one there is just getting at peak. See all the buds on it? And that is one of the doubles. I probably have more doubles than anyone in the state of Iowa. And this one came from the Joiner's Garden in Savannah, Georgia. And they specialize in doubles.
Okay. And then coming here, up here, we have a couple of different ones. Red?
That's a red,
Deep.
yes. A deep red, and then there's that real dark purple, almost black, they call it.
That's probably the darkest one I've ever seen.
That one's dark, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Now, over here is probably one of the bigger ones I had, and when this one was at peak, there were 5 one day open at the same time, and it's quite spectacular when you have a lot of this big a one. I'll show you, like, if this was uncurled, how big that would be. Mm-hmm. It's called Mount Hermon Autumn, and this was hybridized by Jack Carpenter of Center, Texas. And I went down to Texas this spring, not only to visit my sister, but to go to his garden. And I brought back one that's at least 2 inches bigger than that one, called Mount Hermon Giant. I'm anxious to see it bloom next year in my garden.
Now, this is probably another dumb question, but does only one bloom on a stem at a time, one a day?
No, this one here had 5 the other day.
5 on that
5
stem.
on this one stem, or one scape.
Scape.
Yes. Okay. And you will find some other ones. This one back here, see, has 2.
Okay, yeah,
This one here is called a spider. And if this petal is 5 times longer than it is wide, then it is officially classified or registered as a spider. And we do not have any official flower shows in the state of Iowa. You have to go clear to Chicago or Columbia, Missouri to see a flower show. And so you have to pay attention to how they're registered if you do have a flower show. But this one is an official spider. And they like them to curl on the end. That's what they call action. And they like this curlicue. This was on the cover of the Eureka magazine about 3 years ago.
Boy, there's a lot more to daylilies than I ever imagined.
Oh, they're fun.
Do you have, say, this one here, is that over there, or is it a totally different one?
This is it. New series update. And I got this one from Peggy Jeffcoat's garden in South Carolina about 3 or 4 years ago. I just think that one's marvelous, too.
Now, since you do have a collection, do you have them repeated or just one of a... Well, no, because when you divide them, you'd get more, but...
I just have one clump here. You might find a repeat somewhere in the garden, but mostly no, because I need the room for another one.
Okay.
So I usually don't put more than one in a place. Each one of these you're going to see are going to be different. Okay. This is another double right here. This is angelic green. Some of them are a lot more fragrant than others too. And the American Hemerocallis gives out awards each year for different things, and one thing they give is a fragrance award. And then they pick out, the garden judges vote on the flower that they think is #1 for the year. And I have a stout bed over there of the stout winners. We'll get to it.
Oh, good,
later.
Good. This is a beautiful, pure, fresh yellow
lemon.
color.
It's just a lemon double.
Double.
Mm-hmm. And this little one back here is a double, but it's a smaller double.
It almost looks like a rose.
Yes, it does.
I'm smelling something here, too.
Yes, I think the dampness has helped with the fragrance on them. This one here is such a good bloomer, and look at the edge on it. It's called Newberry Frilly Lady.
And it's interesting because it's frilly on the inner ones, but on the outer
Right.
ones it's more sharp.
Mm-hmm. It's just an interesting flower.
What a beautiful one there. It looks almost orchidy.
Yes, that's called Big Kiss.
And another very dark one, but a green center.
Isn't that beautiful?
Mm.
That one is another one that's hybridized by Jack Carpenter down in Texas. It's called Royal Ebony. It's beautiful this morning. I come out in the morning and tell them how pretty they are sometimes.
Oh, you would have to come out and enjoy them.
Oh, yes. This one is called Wedding Band over here. And it has a wire gold edge around the edge of it, too.
Wedding band, that makes
Mhm.
sense.
And a lot of people use that to hybridize to get that gold wire edge on it.
Now, I have to say, while we're here looking at these, that you have some other garden around here, too, besides the daylilies. You have a wonderful water garden.
That's true. And I have ornamental grass and hostas and daffodils. Those are my...
Okay, we'll
ones I
take a
really
peek
like.
at those, but your forte here is the daylilies.
Daylilies, yes. This here is one that won the Stout Award last year. It's Elizabeth Salder, and it was named by the hybridizer for his mother. And you know, if they name one for their mother, it's their favorite flower. Here's another double.
It's
Oh,
peeking
that's stuck
through with the
together.
other, but you can
Yes.
tell it's a different one.
Yes. That's a beautiful double. Tommy Lee Joyner is its name, and it was also hybridized by the Joyners. Most of the doubles I have are hybridized by the Joyners in Savannah, Georgia.
Now, are these smaller ones newer?
Well, yes, this whole bed around here was just put in last fall and this spring. And so that's why the foliage is smaller and, or not blooming, because this was my new bed. But take a look at this one. Isn't this a gorgeous thing? Alpine Snow.
I was going to say it has a whitish
Mm-hmm.
kind of look.
I tried to get some more whites and some purples and lavenders because I realized last year I was kind of short of those colors. So here's one of the new ones too, Laura Harwood.
It's being an artist, it's like doing a painting and placing lights and darks and colors and shapes and
painting for me.
oh, I would love to. I have done lots of daylilies because they are my favorite. That would be fun.
There are paintings of daylilies. Here's a new one, and see, even if it was a tiny little thing, it's still blooming, and it still has a magnificent bloom on it, even if it's just a little tiny thing this year.
Now, how long does it take if you have a plant to really produce a lot of flowers like the ones we were looking at compared to this?
Well, like that one of Elizabeth Salder, I would say that's probably been there 3 years. This is like its first year. And then some of them do better than other ones. Some of them are much more vigorous than other ones.
Now, requirements as far as sunlight. They like
should
sunlight.
have 4 to 6 hours of sunlight is what the daylily people tell us. But I have some in the apple tree, and especially your really intense colors, like your deep purples and your deep reds, because the sun will slick them off so they're not near as pretty in the afternoon. It takes that velvet sheen off of them. So I like to plant them in the shade, and I know people that have them on the north side of their house.
I live in the woods, and we cleared out a lot of trees last year, and I planted these that I got from you. Before we took out the trees, I tried to plant them in sunny spots, and they did bloom.
They did bloom in the shade.
They did bloom.
They will. They may not be as vigorous and put out as much bud, but they still are better than nothing underneath that tree.
Right, and like I said, we did take some trees out, so I'm hoping they'll do better.
Look at this one. Isn't that gorgeous this morning? That is South Seas by Moldovan, and he's over in Ohio. Some of the hybridizers are in the Midwest, but most of them are in the South.
Do you carry a list with you when you travel, so you don't buy the same thing?
Oh, yes. I carry a list, and I carry...
Once and...
Yes, and I carry all kinds of information with me. This is Karen Sue. This is a bitone. Now this one here is, the petals are darker than the sepals. And if they're the same color family, they're called a bitone. If this would happen to be lavender or a different color family, then they're called a bicolor. Sometimes there's reverse bitones too.
Okay. Boy, all these terms I'm going to have to learn.
That's Callie. Now back there, that magnificent red velvet thing is the first one I bought from Fred McDowell in Iowa City. And when I saw that thing bloom the next year, I was just kind of hooked on daylilies, because that is a gorgeous thing, and it still is gorgeous. I probably had it 7 or 8 years.
That's an unusual shape of petal and
It's got kind of points on the ends.
stable? What'd you call the other one?
Sepals.
Sepal.
Yeah.
We're in another little section here, and we were talking about this one being fairly old.
Yes, that one was hybridized. It's one of the older ones I have. It was hybridized in 1950. Its name is Evelyn Clark, and it belonged to my grandmother. And this was probably one of the first pink daylilies that was ever on the market.
So, did you have her pass on love of flowers?
I think that's, yeah, it's in the genes. It's always in the genes. And so many of the daylily people that I have talked to, they got their love of gardening from their grandmother.
I know my grandparents and my mother gardened a lot, and I have it in me too.
This one here is one that I hybridized.
Really?
Yes.
What does that mean?
It's my own creation. I took 2 different flowers and I crossed them and I raised it from seed. So it's a different flower than anybody has. It's my own creation.
Another dumb question. How did you cross them? You took...
You take the anthers off of one. Like if I want to cross this one with that one over there, you take the anthers with the pollen on it. See that pollen? And you put it right over here on this pistil.
Did we just do something?
Yes, we just crossed these 2. Now, what do you think we're going to get?
It'll produce seeds. Now, where are the seeds?
I'll show you later when we get to one that has seed pods on it. I'll show you
Okay.
the seed.
Okay.
Yes. Here's a beautiful thing, and this one is my club. I belong to a daylily club, and with the money that we raise from our sales, we buy some of the higher priced, newer, later from the hybridizers directly. And then we have a little lottery system we draw for them. And we raise it for 2 years. And then we get to keep 2 fans. And then the increase we give back to the club. And then the club has a silent auction. And that's the way they raise more money for more daylilies.
It's a great idea.
Here's a later blooming. Oh, looky here.
Tell me what I'm looking at.
Get your camera down there. That little friend.
I've
in
never
there.
seen that. I
That's a
didn't know
little-
they could do that.
Oh, yes. I usually find them at least once.
A little tiny
A
frog or
little frog.
toad?
Yes, he's a little frog. And we love to have them because they eat bugs.
I was going to ask you if there are any particular pests that you have to be aware of.
There are, yeah. Daylilies are susceptible to, although they're pretty hardy and easy carefree, you can get certain different bugs and diseases and things that attack them once in a while.
Okay. Oh, that's... yeah, how does he get in there?
Well, he's like one of these little tree frogs, I think, or they call them chameleon frogs. He's just so happy in there.
It's like he would have to be born in there to get in
He's
there.
in there all day. And tomorrow he'll be in another one. I never know where I'm going to find them, but they're fun to find.
Yeah.
Here's a nice one, pink, really pretty pink. Now here's a new one this year too, and this one is a club plant.
It's a different orange.
Isn't that pretty? That's a hot orange.
So it looks like your lilies go all the way around
They
your
just go
house.
forever and ever and ever.
Now, looking over
But they
here,
This got out of hand. It started one place, and then I would go and buy 12 someplace and come back home and wonder where I'm going to put them. So therefore, I had to make the bed a little larger.
what does your husband think of all these? Is it okay with him?
My husband passed away
Oh.
5 years ago.
Okay.
Yes, but I did have some when he was still living. And yes, he did love them. He loved to sit by my water pool. Here. This is Shama, and it is hybridized by a man down in Missouri. Isn't that a big, gorgeous thing?
Oh,
And it's just so waxy and heavy texture. Now, the wind and the rain doesn't bother these that have that real heavy texture like it, like that. Now, I was telling you about some of them being a lot more vigorous than other ones.
Yes.
Here's one that's really, really vigorous. So I think we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out.
They look so strong.
Yes,
too.
Yes, these Scapes are just...
Some look more fragile than others, but those look
Right. Well,
very
there's a
strong.
difference. There's a difference in being a tetraploid or a diploid, and the tetraploids have more chromosomes. So they're. I won't get
tetraploid.
started on that. They have.
I think you could teach a class.
They have a lot stronger scape.
And a beautiful red. You could see this from a distance.
Passion for red is its name. And here is a huge one. Josephine
Marina?
Marina. This is another one of Jack Carpenter's. In 1987. Isn't that a gorgeous thing?
So probably the earliest year that you had is the 1950.
Right, I think.
And then
well, I have some back out there that aren't even. I don't even know the year of my grandmother's, and I call those my historics.
okay. And the newest?
Probably 2001.
Really, 2001.
I have one. It's not blooming now, but I brought back from Texas. That's not going to be introduced until this fall. And it isn't even named yet. It's still a number. So I'm waiting for their catalog to come out to see what name to put on that one.
Oh.
Here's a nice clump of purples. That's called Land's End. And that's only been here about, I think this is its 3rd summer in this location. And see how nice it's clumped.
And you know what I really like is this against the hosta, that bright green hosta in the background picks up the throats of the lily.
And see, now here's one that's in the shade that hardly ever gets any sun. And the intense colors, I like to put them in the shade because the sun doesn't ruin them.
And you do have some of your hostas labeled too. That's
Yes,
good.
I try to label all of them, yes.
Now we're looking at some of your other garden areas and how nicely you have things decorated here.
This is just a landscape project.
Oh, it's nice.
did
I like that.
I think 2 years ago. And the hostas haven't had a chance to grow. The hostas I just put in last year, and they need to mature till this is really pretty back here.
So this keeps you busy, I would say.
Well, yes, I can just spend about as much time as you want to out here. That's why I'm retired, so I can do this.
Oh,
This I
it's
just did this spring. And
Did you used to garden as a child?
yeah. Did you garden?
my grandmother had me out, and I used to help her. She had a huge flower garden, probably the biggest flower garden that I ever saw anywhere. And there's one thing I guess I can remember about something that she taught to me. And she had me out there with a hoe, and we were just hoeing the weeds and sweating. And my grandmother was a very religious person, and she said to me, or I said to her, I thought I had her, I said, if God is so good, why does he put weeds out here? I thought I had her. And I'll never forget what she said. She told me it's to keep me from getting lazy.
Oh, okay. I'll remember that now every time I'm
So
out
I
there.
think about that when I'm out here sweating. This is supposed to keep me from getting lazy.
I'll have to remember that.
Now let's go over here and we'll look at some more daylilies. Now see, these little 4 here are 4 that I just brought back from Texas just this June. Here are more. This bed here, there's 3 viburnums in here, but around in this bed are all Jack Carpenter's flowers. Here's kind of a unique one. See how it's recurved? They call it. The petals curve back.
A recurve.
Recurved. Yeah, the petals curve back. This is called Tiger's Eye.
And they don't loosen up. They just stay
No,
like that.
no. When they come open, they just, you know, kind of curve back like that. That's called recurves. Yeah, let's go over here and see if we can't find something gorgeous this morning. This is called Soft and Pretty.
Oh, it's got a little bug curled up in there too.
Yes. Soft and pretty.
Out it goes.
And isn't it? Soft and pretty. This one is called Peach Emerald. Look at the green throat in that. And then these are some of Jack Carpenter's seedlings here that he didn't name, and he will sell them out like maybe $15 a piece.
Oh, I
But
was
he
going
doesn't
to
put
ask.
a name on them.
And that makes them
He
less.
raises like 15 or 20,000 seedlings a year, and then he selects maybe 100 that he watches over several years, and then if he doesn't want them, he'll sell them out to his garden visitors.
Okay.
And so you can pick out what you want. This one I thought was really kind of pretty.
Oh, that one looks orchidy to me.
And it has the yellow on the edge, and it's got what they call a watermark down here in the center.
Okay.
That lighter around there is
Right.
called a watermark.
I was going to ask the price range variance from low to high.
When the hybridizers introduce a new one, they'll introduce them from, I've seen them all the way from $50 to up to $300. They're very expensive when they first come out because there aren't any other available. But as time goes on and they become more available in other gardens, well, the price drops dramatically on them. But if you want to have something really new, then you have
Then you can pay that for them.
then you can pay that and get something really new and nice. Or you can wait another 3 or 4 years till it's more available and it's dropped in price, half or 3/4 even. I have a lot of them here that I may have bought for $4 or $5.
Okay.
Here is one here that is a nice, huge clump. It's called Unique Style. It was hybridized by Kate Carpenter. There's 2 different Carpenters. They're not related.
Oh. Nice red one over there.
Yes. Isn't this one a rich red? And that's a French word that some gardeners were out here just a couple nights ago and told me the correct way to say that. I always call it just Novo Ricci. But they gave me the right pronunciation, but I can't remember it.
These here are little tiny short ones. Are they going to stay like that?
Yes, that's the shortest one I have. That's kind of a border
I
plant.
was going to say that's
Just
nice
a
for a
little
border.
Mm-hmm. Those can't be more than 2-3 inches tall. That one is really small. Now here is a magnificent plant. Isn't that gorgeous?
Velvety.
It's a grape velvet, and then it's got that unique watermark in it, and then it's got that green throat. It's called Nordic Night, and it's not a newer one. It's a 1992. So I'm guessing that one probably sells like maybe for $15 on the market, $12, $15, somewhere like that. So it isn't so expensive once they get that age.
Right.
Now normally the daylilies, like I was telling you, have 6. All right, this one has 8. And there are hybridizers that work for just 8-petaled ones. And the name of this one is Give Me 8. And it was hybridized by Renicky down in Tennessee.
Oh, I see an unusual one over here to our left.
Oh, this one with the eye?
Yes. White with the...
A cream with, yes, a purple eye. It's called Pandora's Box, and that's an older one. I imagine that one probably sells for around $3 or $4 on the open market. So there are a lot of pretty plants that are very reasonable. Now, these here are ones that were my grandmother's, and a lady that lived across the street from my grandmother gave them to me after my grandmother passed away, and then years passed and this lady wasn't able to take her garden anymore. And she called me and asked me if I would like starts of my grandmother's daylilies, and I said, of course.
I know I have moved flowers from my husband's grandmother's yard. She would give me starts and I would move them, and then when we moved again, I moved them.
Yes.
They were important to me.
I think they came in the covered wagon too. There's a really pretty yellow one. Now here's the spiders. I told you, you know, the different kinds. The spiders have longer scapes.
Okay, they do.
And they when the breeze blows, they just kind of flutter in the breeze. They're kind of pretty to put in the background. Now a few of these here have already, my early ones, and they're through blooming. This is about the last bloom on this yellow double. This was hybridized quite a while ago by a man from Missouri.
I've never seen so many beautiful daylilies and so many colors, and wow.
Lake Norman spider. It was hybridized in 1982 by Kate Carpenter. She had a lot of nice things. She just passed away last winter. I think she was in her 90s. Here's a nice one. See, now there has been a bug that did eat that, but that is a real nice one too. There's another double back there, but here's some more spiders. Then there's a whole series of this Stamili in Florida did a whole series of different kind of candies, and this is cherry candy here. A little bug in there. The bug likes these. And he has strawberry candy, wineberry candy, custard candy, vanilla candy, and just every kind of candy there is. He just named his whole series the candies.
That's a fun idea.
This is lavender light. This is a little itty bitty, Muffet's little friend, little itty bitty spider.
So this is your spider or collection
A lot
back
of
here?
these in the background because a lot of times spiders grow tall, and you like to have them in the background. That's supposed to be the plan anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And here's one of my ornamental grasses. It's a miscanthus. Then back here are some of the deep reds that I've put in the shade so that they don't slick off.
Mm-hmm.
A few of these are clear done through here too. Here is the double that won the Stout Award for fragrance. Vanilla Fluff.
I'm going to have to smell that one. Am I going to notice?
Can you smell it?
I do.
Here's a big pink one. This is called Concert Tour, and just look how wide the foliage is on this one. It's twice as wide as a normal foliage on a daylily. It's just a very vigorous, robust plant.
That's the widest I've seen here today.
I think that's the widest I have, is this one. It's just a big one. Here's one of the other candies right here. This is strawberry candy, and this won the Stout Award about 2 years ago. Here's Watermelon Moon back here. Now these don't ever get any sun back here. And here's Spode. There's the spider back there. And here is a really unique one. Look at the bloom on that. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 on these two scapes. 6, 7, 8. There's 8 on this one plant. This is Forensi Gold, but it has a unique little frilly edge too. It's a real robust. And look at the color of roseate glow. Sometimes it's double and sometimes it's single. I really like it when it doubles, but I think that's such a pretty deep color.
It can be double or single?
Sometimes it depends on how much water it gets. And of course it's been kind of dry lately, but I have seen it bloom double. Sometimes they will double. Mm-hmm.
Huh.
Here's another unique one back here. This is a double spider. Look at this, how...
That looks kind of like a lily. What do I want to say?
Well, it doesn't hardly look like a daylily, does it?
Right.
That one's called 4-star. This is Pumpkin Kid here. And here's Pink Rocks.
We'll give our cameraman a break.
Okay. Right.
This is one you said it was expensive when it came out.
When it first came out, yes. I just recently acquired it. It's called Watership Down, and it's hybridized by this Steve Moldovan over in Ohio, who specializes in purples. Let's go down this way, and I'll show you some neat ones down this way.
I guess you would have to specialize after a while to...
Yes, the hybridizers usually pick one certain thing that they want to do, like doubles or reds or whites, and work at getting better. Isn't that a pretty thing, too? And then if you want lots of color, you get something like this in the background. And here's something with a beautiful color. Beautiful color of pink. Jolene Nicole.
And the next one that we're going to look at is really different.
This is what they call a hose and hose double. This is Ruth Whitten. It was hybridized by the joiners in 1997, but what it actually is like one flower on top of another flower. It's not a double that has a lot of tissue in the middle.
It looks like they're stacked,
It's
one
called
on
a
top.
hose and hose double. And it is just magnificent. This is only its second year.
Is this the only one of these you have?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, I might have some others that are similar to that, but that one's the only one of that color anyway.
Now this one's unusual. It looks like it's tie-dyed to me.
Well, it's a spider.
Uh-huh.
It's a spider. Twilight Star is its name.
I see you've got a lot of butterflies around too.
Yes,
that are attracted.
I think it does attract the butterflies. Yeah. Do you want to go over and look at the stout bed? Those are the
Yes.
those are the ones
Yes.
that have won the top award of given by the American Hemerocallis Society. Each one won a certain year, and I'm not going to be able to tell you for sure what year. For instance, this old red won in 1981. Ed Murray was its name. And Becky Lynn.
Oh, that one's really pretty.
Here's a little double that won, Salome Double Classic. And here I think is one of the clearest pinks. I mean, there's some reason that these won. And look at the clarity of the pink in that one. This is Barbara Mitchell.
It looks like a dress, a beautiful dress to me.
And the green throat. Then this one is just a beautiful form. The form is just so perfect. It's just like a little perfect flower. That's called Fairy Tale Pink. And that one was hybridized in 1981. Still gorgeous.
And over here we have, you said your new ones?
I just did this bed last fall. And I moved some different, and some of these are new. Francis Joyner. Here is a nice double of the Joiners. Here is a really nice spider called Canary Wings. This is Lake Norman spider. I did have that one over there. Here is Granite City Towhead. And my daughter hybridized. Look here, I told you I'd show you a seed pod.
Okay.
When my granddaughter was down here from Newton a week or so ago, she hybridized that. And I have a seed growing.
Oh, and I see that's why you have a tag.
Yes, we tagged it. We crossed it with that asterisk. I asked her to pick out two that she thought would be nice to cross. And she picked that one and this one. And because the cross took, now it's growing a seed pod on it.
They only grow seed pods if they're crossing?
If the cross takes, they don't always take.
So I've got a lot of those things.
You probably have a lot of seed pods. All right, they're probably on things that have self-pollinated, like Stella Diora, and a lot of the little ones will cross-pollinate.
So if you take those seed pods and break them open, do they have to dry?
They need to dry, yes. Leave the seed pod on until it dries in the fall, and then take the pod off and take the little black seeds off, and you can either sow it in the garden in the fall, or you can wait till spring. And some people start them in the house.
Okay. Will they do that by themselves?
Cross-pollinate, you mean?
The seeds break open and spread?
You can tell they start to crack, and you need to be watching so it doesn't fall on the ground.
Or else you'll get too many?
No, it'll just, you'll lose the seed if they fall out on the ground. You need to harvest it before the seed pod opens.
Okay.
My granddaughter's only 3 that did that.
Oh, how nice. She'll love it. She will love it.
Here is a new one. Isn't that a pretty thing? That's
unusual.
It has what they call quilling, where they're like pinched in there, like a quill.
Oh.
That's asterisk. It's not a newer plant. It's 1990. But I like the unusual now. I have to buy unusual things.
Uh-huh.
And I think that is really pretty. And that's about all that's blooming right here.
Okay.
Now, I don't know whether, if you want to look at some of my seedlings, I can show you what they look like over here after you plant them in the garden
Okay.
the first year.
Oh, yeah, we need to look at this. A little seedling garden.
Yes. Now, this is what, if you plant the seedlings in your garden, this is what they'll look like the first year. And they won't bloom the first year.
So you have to plant them in the spring.
Or you can plant them in the fall,
Outside.
just like Mother Nature would do. Or you can plant them in the spring, or some people start them in the house. And I actually started these in the house, probably in February. But it sets them back when you set out here. They will bloom on their second or third year. Sometimes it takes 3 years, so it isn't a very fast process up here. That's why all the major hybridizers are in Florida, because down there they can plant it in the garden and bloom it in 1 year, so they know whether they like it. Where up here it takes us 3 years.
Okay. And all of these are ones that you've done like this?
Yes. These purple ones here, those purple ones, and those little ones are out of that dash over there.
Mm-hmm.
Everything in this vegetable garden. Here's a neat one over here of mine. I'll show you. I see that's out this morning.
And when you say that's mine, it's because you
I
have...
hybridized it. Look at this big spidery one over here.
Do you name them and register them though?
I have not yet, because I don't have anything yet that I've done. I just have kind of gotten started. So far they just have numbers. But I'm thinking about maybe doing a few this year. I have one down here I think I will name for my granddaughter.
I think that's a wonderful idea.
This kind of double lavender.
Uh-huh.
I think I should name that one Samantha Lee for my 3-year-old granddaughter, who has a good start on her hybridizing program.
And then it can be passed on from generation to generation.
Right.
That's...
Here's another one that's mine, right here.
Oh, that's gorgeous.
And this one here, although it has some water damage this morning from the rain. The rain gets down in the end of those buds there, and sometimes it will cause that discoloration then the next day.
Huh.
There's a pretty one over there called Blue-Eyed Butterfly. Some of them have gorgeous eyes. Some of the hybridizers are working on just developing those beautiful eyes. This one is one of mine. Right here, seedling 9923.
So when you do this, you can see the two flowers come together in the one.
Right. See, I think that one's probably out of that Indian Giver up there that I showed you, that early one. A lot of those purples back there out of Indian Giver. That is a pretty thing too, isn't it? And here is a nice big yellow called Audacity Bound. If people like big ones, that's a good one for them. And I love the soft color of this one. This is Pastel Classic. That was hybridized by a Millikan over here in Indiana.
Oh, this has been so much fun. I think we'll show your water garden, so we'll let our camera...
because we do have a water lily out today.
Okay.
And my water garden is kind of in the shade, and that is not good for water gardening.
Okay. While we're walking over there, we'll give our cameraman a break. So we're over here by your water garden, and there is a water lily out.
Yes, and my water garden is enough in the shade that I don't get a lot of water lily bloom. So I'm excited when I see a bloom. This garden, water garden, I dug myself. I dug this hole and put the dirt up here to make the waterfall. And the rocks around the outside here came from my grandmother's garden. When they sold that farm up there, I just rescued these rocks in time to get them to put around my water garden.
So you've done a lot in addition to your daylilies, which you're getting very well known for. So Betty Miller, I want to thank you very much for sharing this with us, with the community. And if someone wants to come visit they need to call you ahead.
I like to have them call because I want to be sure and be here so I can give them the tour.
Oh, yeah, and learn
And once
so
in a while,
much.
I do go to visit other gardens and things, and I am gone. So,
Okay.
yeah, I like
And-
to have them call ahead.
You're about how far out of Fairfield?
About 9 miles.
9 miles, kind of north
Up towards
and then
Packwood.
and west, out towards Packwood. And so, if you would like to visit, you give her a call, and your number,
695-3447.
and she'll give you the exact directions to come and check out the daylilies. And if you don't get out here this year, make sure you get out next year.
Right. It's getting towards the end of the season.
And we'll air this again next year, so that before the season, so that people can make plans to come out, because it's truly magnificent.
Well, I thank you for coming out, too, and taking your time. This has been delightful. It's been fun.
Great.
I thank you.
Thank you. Wonderful daylilies. Don't miss them.